Alright, and welcome back for another review. Today we're going to take a look at the 2008 25th anniversary G.I. Joe RAMCYCLE and Cobra Flight Pod 2-pack. So I picked this one up about a week ago, and pretty cool looking set. Just give you a 360 of the box. Got some nice artwork of the Cobra, Televiper. There's a shot of the back, giving you a few of the pointers about the vehicles. One thing to note, the bubble gum there on Breaker and some other vehicle sets in the Wave. Zoom in on those real quick. They also had the Cobra His Tank, the Armadillo, and the Vamp. And I'm bringing it around to the other side. You get a nice artwork shot of the RAMCYCLE against the Cobra Flight Pod or Trouble Bubble. And top, just G.I. Joe. Bottom is pretty cool. You got the failure will not be considered. Very cool artwork of Cobra Commander right there. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this open and give you guys a better look at the RAMCYCLE and Trouble Bubble. Stay tuned. Okay, so we've got them out of package, and I'm just going to go briefly over what's included in the set. So we have the Ram motorcycle, Breaker, the Televiper, and of course the Trouble Bubble. We also get included a few stickers for the Trouble Bubble, a few extra stickers for the Ram motorcycle. I say extra because you'll notice that there is some stickers already on right out of the box. Same thing for the Trouble Bubble. They didn't apply that one too well. Aside from the sticker sheets, we also get instructions on both the Ram motorcycle and the Cobra Flight Pod. And very interestingly, they give us the file cards for the figures, and also file cards for the vehicles. It's pretty cool. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. Okay, so we'll start off with the Televiper. Give you a 360 view of him. Pretty nice dark blue and purple uniform they gave him. And he does come with his display stand, which does say Televiper on it. So taking a closer look at the figure, the head sculpt on him is pretty interesting. He's definitely got an old guy look to him. Weird grimace going on. His headset looks like it's detachable, but it's not. It is permanently attached to the figure. He does have a removable vest, but I don't really see the reason to pull that off. And he's got these pre-posed hands, I guess to use the flight pod. But for anything else, it just looks strange. I mean, he kind of just looks like he's pouting, or has got crippling arthritis, which I guess does go along with the old guy face. His belt, you'll notice, is separate. Not removable, but it is separate from the sculpt. Not really sure why they did that. Got some nice, looks like they've attached pockets after the fact. Looks like they've been pegged in, which is interesting. And I'll just briefly go over his articulation. So his head is on a ball joint, can look left and right, up and down. He's got a waist joint, which allows him to pivot forward and back and twist side to side. Arm is on a pin and socket, so it goes up. Ooh, looks like it's doing something weird here. So it can range out, but when you move it up, you see that? It just like swivels out, which is very strange. I would expect it to go straight up, but it swivels out. That's very weird. Single hinge and swivel at the elbow. And he does have a wrist swivel. The legs are on a ball joint, so it can do pretty much any motion you'd want. And he has double jointed knees, which is very nice. A swivel at the foot and a hinge at the foot. So pretty decent articulation, though I will say the aesthetic of the newer G.I. Joe figures is kind of, I don't know. I don't really like them that much. I don't think they look very well proportioned. At least this guy doesn't. But that's the Televiper. Let's take a look at Breaker next. Okay, so here's Breaker. Pretty cool looking figure. Give you a 360 view of him. Nice green army uniform. I like the color green that they chose. And zooming in on the face sculpt. This one I think is a lot better than the Televiper. I don't really like the Televiper very much. But Breaker's head's pretty good. Pulling it in closer. They did a nice job on the paint job on there. They gave him a nice 5 o'clock shadow, which is more comic book accurate. Versus in the cartoon he had the full beard. But that's a pretty good paint job. Can remove his helmet. That's not bad. The necks on these guys seem a little thin. That's a little strange. But it does have that extra range of motion, so that's kind of nice. And then we get the same articulation with this figure as the Televiper, so I won't have to go over that again. But he comes with this harness. The harness looks like it is also removable. Looks like it's the peg right in the front there. So you can remove it. He's got the standard green shirt, the rolled up sleeves. The original figure had sleeves rolled up to his upper bicep. This one just at the wrist. And then he's got sculpted pocket, a holster, double jointed knees. That's pretty good. Yep, all the same articulation. And in his holster, he has a pistol. It's a really nicely sculpted, looks like a 9mm Beretta. That's got a nice sculpt on it. And let's see. Yep, he holds it okay. Well, that's not too bad. The one thing I did see that was kind of odd is he's got the pistol holstered over here, but on his web gear he's got like another pouch and it's empty. There's nothing going on in there. So I'm not sure why that is. Also, the bubble gum wasn't included like on the package. So that's a look at Breaker. Pretty decent figure. and briefly give you a comparison to the original. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we are. Quick comparison between the 25th anniversary breaker and the 1982 original straight on breaker. So you can see where the modern one got some cues with the helmet, of course, very similar. Color green is a little different, but that's no big deal. The web gear is black, just like on the original, so that's cool. He does have the rolled up sleeves, not quite as much as the original figure, and he does carry over that really simple plain green outfit with black boots and web gear. Of course, the original breaker did come with silver pockets, which this one does not, which makes sense. This is a more accurate modern army look, which I do like. And the other thing that Breaker's really missing is he's a communications expert, and the 25th anniversary version does not have any kind of communications gear. He's basically like a standard grunt. He's got a pistol, a helmet, some web gear, but that's it. There's no backpack like the original Breaker. Served his main function as a communications expert. So I think that's kind of a missed opportunity. And you will notice that the newer figures do have peg holes in the back. They are a little different than the original. But it's nice to see that they do carry that feature over. And obviously the newer figures do have more articulation, even if their proportions are a lot different. So that's just it. That's a brief look at the comparison between 1982 original Breaker and the 25th anniversary. Now let's get into the vehicles. Okay, so here's the Cobra Flight Pod. Give you a 360 view of this. It's an interesting vehicle. Can't say it's one of my favorites, but it's definitely pretty cool, and it served its purpose, and it was pretty iconic in the cartoon. It's often used. I don't think it's a very practical vehicle, but zoom in on the details here. So it's a simple one-seater vehicle that holds one Cobra Trooper. Got these two jets in the back of the unit, and that's what propels it. So taking a closer look at it, get these two jets, and it has this stabilizer bar system that helps guide the unit. But it kind of looks like something that would definitely not work in reality. Just kind of go forward and crash. The canopy does open, and this particular version has a clip in it to hold the action figure in place. Also, the control bar does swing down, so it does make loading the unit pretty easy. And just do that really quickly. Put the Cobra Televiper in there. It just clips in place. And grab onto the bars and then close the unit. So it looks something like that. The unit is armed with a cannon in the front, which actually rotates and is connected by two hoses. and has 2 rockets. Taking a look at the rocket. Stickers don't seem to stay well on those rounded units, and it just has this peg system. Very simple. So it has 2 of those. And that's about it. The Cobra Flight Pod is not a very practical aircraft. It stands relatively okay. Not great. It's kind of like just, I don't know. I would think something like this should actually have like landing skis at least, so that it can stand, but it just kind of rests on its own weight, and it does balance, but it just does not come across as a complete design. But pretty cool though, nonetheless. Give you a closer look at some of the details. And just in case you're wondering, will it fit a vintage figure? We'll take a look at that. Let's pop this guy out and see if Beachhead standard O-ring figure will clip in. So the clip does clip around them. He seems to actually fit a lot better on this unit than the 25th anniversary Televiper. I think originally, because this was designed in the vintage line, they have tweaked it, added the clip, which was not present on the original, and is removable if you take it apart. There's a screw that removes it, which is something I might do. But with the clip in place, it does hold the figure very securely. He's not going anywhere. So that looks pretty cool. So that's a look at the Cobra Flight Pod. Next, we'll take a look at the Ram motorcycle. Okay, and here we have the Ram motorcycle. Pretty much the main reason I picked this set up. As I said in one of my whole videos, I was kind of cruising for a vintage Ram motorcycle and came across this set and decided to just go this route. Really cool, iconic bike from the G.I. Joe vintage line with some new modern twist to it. But it's essentially very similar to the original bike. It's the same mold in a lot of respects with some tweaks. Really cool. So taking a closer look at some of the detail, right up front you'll notice the headlight is now a clear translucent piece of plastic, which is a really nice feature. That looks really good. Get that classic G.I. Joe. I did put all the stickers on, logo on there, and I do like the green plastic used. Got that nice shiny classic look that the vintage Joe vehicles had. Got some nice sculpted detail in there. The engine, that looks really sharp. Into the mufflers, which are in that nice glossy gray. Wheels are on gray rims with black plastic painted tires. Bringing it around to the back. You'll also notice now the brake light is also a clear translucent piece of plastic. And then into that side minigun, which is really cool. It's got its own wheel there. And you can see the stamping there from Hasbro. So this can't be ported off as some kind of original piece. They have changed a few things on there, which is great. So we'll start here with some detail on the actual minigun. With this, you turn this knob back here to spin it, but it's really too tight to work, so you can really just spin it by grabbing a hold of that. Maybe if you loosen it up over time, you'll be able to use the knob, but there's not really much room and doesn't seem to work very well. It does have also this removable cover. And this will be my first time removing it. Okay, so it just pulls right off. And that shows some nice detail inside. Inner workings. Very nice. That just has those two plugs there that plug into that. So that's it for the minigun. So I'll remove that. Unit has a workable kickstand, which is nice. So that comes down when not using the side minigun. That's a nice feature. The unit has turnable steering wheel, which I believe the 1982 version did not. And some nice handlebar sculpted detail. Has two detachable saddle packs. They're both labeled. You got saddle pack 1 and 2. They are removable. Just held on with this little peg. And they do open, which is nice. Now, on this unit, in the second one, comes packaged with an accessory already inside. So you have a spare pistol, which I thought was a really nice feature. That's looks like a 45 caliber M1911. That's got some nice sculpted detail on there. So there's a little spare weapon on the bike, and then with that removed you could see some of the extra stickers, instrument panel, and the first aid kit. So we'll see how the figure fits on the bike. Doesn't want to grab it too easily. There we go. All right. So he rides it pretty good. He's got a nice two-handed grip on the motorcycle. And then we'll attach the sidecar now. And that just goes on with those two pegs to there. Very simple. So that looks pretty good. I like the way that looks. And it does roll really nice. And just for my own curiosity, see how a vintage O-ring figure fits on the bike. Again, we'll use Beachhead here. Now these handles are slightly thick, so I don't recommend forcing, though you probably could get the hands to pop on. I don't want to risk breaking the thumb, but he could definitely hold on to it. And I think that looks pretty good. As again, this bike was originally designed for the vintage line, so it works really well with the original O-ring figures. So that's it. That's a look at the 25th anniversary 2008 Cobra Flight Pod and Ram motorcycle. Hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for some more G.I. Joe reviews. Thanks as always for watching, subscribing, and commenting. Until next time, guys.